Millennial and Gen Z Canadians can get a good job. They can work hard. They can do everything their parents did and more. And too often, the reward remains out of reach. They look at their parents' lives and wonder, how will I ever be able to afford that? The same anxiety haunts those of us who care about our younger generations, their parents and grandparents. What many parents have achieved for themselves, a degree of comfort and security, we want for our children and grandchildren. We want their hard work to be rewarded, as it has been for us. We want them to look forward to a future with a sense of anticipation, not angst.
We have arrived at a pivotal moment for millennials and Gen Z. These Canadians have so much talent and potential. They need to see and believe that our country can work for them. Making the promise of Canada real for younger Canadians requires action from us, and that is what we are delivering.
It begins with building more homes at a pace and scale not seen since after the Second World War. Over the past 3 weeks, we have shared with Canadians our new and ambitious plan to solve the housing crisis and to help ensure that Canadians, especially younger Canadians, are able to afford their rent or mortgage payments. We're investing to kickstart the construction of more rental apartments and more affordable housing across our country. We're topping up the Housing Accelerator Fund, which is doing exactly what we intended and exactly what Canada needs, cutting through red tape and breaking down zoning barriers. This innovative fund is at the vanguard of a housing revolution in Canada and is fast-tracking the creation of new homes. We're making the math work for builders by cutting federal taxes on new apartment construction, breaking down regulatory and zoning barriers, providing direct, low-cost financing, and making more government land available for building.
In a country with winters as long and as cold as ours, we are scaling up innovative construction techniques like modular housing to build homes year-round. Modular housing makes Canadian homes less expensive and the Canadian economy more productive. To support all this new housing, we are investing in the infrastructure communities need to grow and increasing the number of construction workers. By creating opportunities for apprentices and recognizing foreign credentials.
We're making it easier for Canadian homeowners to add a basement suite or a laneway house, so middle-class Canadians can be part of the housing.
Middle-class Canadians should not be living in basement suites or having to rent out their basement suite.
Homes faster across our country is quite literally an exercise in nation building, a true Team Canada effort. Together, we are putting into action a plan to build nearly 4 million homes by 2031.
Never happen.
And to unlock the door
Impossible.
For more young Canadians.
While we work urgently to increase the supply of housing, our government is taking action to bring relief to Canadians, especially younger Canadians, by making it more affordable to rent or to buy a new home. This starts with better protecting renters from steep rent increases and renovictions. It also means making sure they get credit for their on-time rental payments, so they are in a better position to qualify for a mortgage, maybe even at a lower rate, when the time comes to
This is
buy
absolutely
their
just
first
propaganda, ladies and gentlemen. They're not going to be able to build 4 million homes, and this whole renters thing that they're talking about is a bunch of red tape. Nobody's ever going to qualify for it.
Amortization period of a mortgage to 30 years on new builds, including condos. That means lower monthly payments and greater opportunity for young people to get those first keys of their own.
This is literally ridiculous.
Tax-free ways to save for first down payment through the tax-free first home savings account and the enhanced home buyers plan. The longer amortization period will ensure more younger Canadians are able to...
A longer amortization period is not good for Canadians. It only helps the banks, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm speaking over her, but I have to. This is just ridiculous.
The second part of our plan is making life cost less. Inflation has now been back within the Bank of Canada's target range for 3 months in a row. That is good news for Canadians. But more is needed to help reduce the cost of living, to help younger Canadians gain ground. As a government, we've made transformative enhancements to Canada's social safety net.
There's no such thing as a safety net in Canada anymore. This is literally the lady who said Canadians shouldn't rely on their homes to be investments.
And making it financially possible for more Canadians to choose to start a family of their own. Now we're making further investments, creating even more child care spaces so more families can benefit and so more mothers don't have to choose between a career and a family.
That's bullshit.
This is feminist social policy.
That's all that is bullshit.
And it is smart economic policy too. Already, thanks to our early learning and child care investments, Canada has reached a record high for working age women's labor force participation.
So they destroyed the nuclear family, split people apart, told women they can go to work, and it's good you're going to work, and they only did it because they want your tax dollars, nothing else.
7 million Canadians have already signed up. Next year, 9 million uninsured Canadians will have dental coverage.
And we've introduced legislation to deliver the first phase of National Pharmacare, which will provide universal coverage for many diabetes medications and make contraceptives free, ensuring every Canadian woman can freely choose the contraceptive that works best for her.
So I'm on board with the diabetes medication. I believe nobody should have to pay for diabetes medication in this country. Contraceptives, however, well, you know, I'll be on board with that. I'll take that.
Contraceptives are central to a woman's right to control her own body. That is a fundamental woman's right. It is a fundamental human right.
And that's the thing, though. You gotta be careful when they're funding pharmacare. So if they're funding diabetes medication, it's going to bump up the price of that diabetes medication because now the government's paying for it. So it gives more money to pharmacare. So you gotta think outside of the box with this a little bit, folks.
This is an essential right our government will always protect. Women in other countries, our friends, our neighbors, are losing their right to control their own bodies. We will not let that happen here in Canada.
You're going to hear increased taxes coming up here for upper class Canadians, and they're going to raise the taxes on the middle classes as well.
Save money. The Canada Child Benefit is the foundation of our support to young Canadian families and has helped lift more than 650,000 children out of poverty since 2016. The Canada Workers Benefit provides a meaningful boost to our lowest paid and often most essential workers. Our new Canada Disability Benefit will increase the financial well-being of low-income Canadians with disabilities.
So now you're going to see the diagnosis of disabilities go up.
And we will launch a national school food program, working with provinces and territories.
School lunch program was never needed. There was plenty of people doing things already for that, but Justin Trudeau and his Liberal government created the problem. Now they're providing a solution, and they're expecting a thank you from us.
Food programs and help 400,000 more children. Yes. So that they can have good, healthy food that will allow them to have a fair start at a good, healthy life. The list of supportive, cost-saving measures goes on, Mr. Speaker. The GST credit arrives every 3 months to put some extra money in the pockets of millions of Canadians. The Canada Carbon Rebate ensures that we fight climate change in the most cost-effective way, delivering hundreds of dollars to Canadians every 3 months, including yesterday.
Anybody else see how this is so socialized? All of the stuff they've destroyed, they're now throwing money back at to win votes. This is literal socialism, and you need to have full socialism in order to have communism, and that's literally what this government is.
Proceeds to small and medium-sized businesses.
So proud to announce that our new Canada Carbon Rebate for small businesses will soon return over $2.5 billion directly.
You know how fake Justin Trudeau is? He knows it's a lie. Like, he's just a bad actor.
That's right. Over $2.5 billion directly to about 600,000 small and medium-sized businesses. This real, meaningful support is a testament to our commitment to Canada's small businesses. Mr. Speaker, at a time when prices are high, we're delivering real investments that help make life cost less for Canadians. The third part of our plan is growing the economy in a way that's shared by everyone. To drive the kind of growth Canada needs today, we are redoubling our efforts to attract investment, increase productivity, and boost innovation. We're working to empower our best entrepreneurs to put their ideas to work here in Canada and create good paying and meaningful jobs. How do we do that? Well, to quote one of our country's great philosophers, we need to skate to where the puck is going. Cela veut dire.
That means doubling down on artificial intelligence. We were the first country to have a national artificial intelligence strategy. Over the past several years, we've supported the creation and growth of one of the world's leading, most talented artificial intelligence communities.
And today, Mr. Speaker, we are taking the next step to secure Canada's AI advantage.
Bravo. Bravo.
Oh, here comes digital ID, folks.
We are equipping our AI innovators with the compute power they need to attract and nurture the best researchers, scale up businesses, and drive the innovation that will deliver transformative economic opportunities for Canada and Canadians. Homegrown Canadian AI companies are already helping to boost the productivity of Canadian workers. A natural area to seize a further competitive advantage for Canada is building the mechanical heart of the AI economy, data centers. We have a natural edge. We have abundant and clean electricity. We have skilled and experienced engineers. We have the cold climate needed to help cool supercomputers. And we are physically close to the world's largest market, which has vast data processing needs. We're introducing the Accelerated Capital Cost Allowance for innovation-enabling and productivity-enhancing assets. This means that investments in things like computers, data network infrastructure, and more will be eligible for immediate write-offs. This will encourage companies to reinvest, create more jobs, and make their businesses more productive and innovative.
That's very good.
Mr. Speaker, in the first 3 quarters of 2023, Canada attracted the very highest per capita foreign direct investment in the G7.
Bravo.
And now all that investment's going to run away.
The third most total FDI in the world. Our budget builds on that significant accomplishment because attracting investment is key to driving growth, increasing productivity, and boosting innovation. With the Canada Growth Fund and our $93 billion suite of investment tax credits, we are already encouraging businesses to invest in emerging clean technologies that can drive growth and productivity and create more good-paying jobs. Today, we're proposing a new investment tax credit to attract companies investing across the electric vehicle supply chain. Canada boasts an abundance of natural resources. We intend to leverage this national advantage to build entire supply chains. And our new investment tax credit.
So now the government is in the electric vehicle business, and companies like Ford and GM have come out and said that they're stopping their electric vehicle production because it isn't realistic. So now the federal government just thinks that, they're in the EV industry now.
And we are building on our track record of making it more affordable to go to college and university by renewing the increase in upfront Canada student grants and interest-free loans, increasing the amount of financial aid students get for housing, and making it easier for mature students to go back to school affordably. And all of this is on top of our campaign promise to eliminate interest on Canada's student loans, which we delivered on a year ago.
So you got rid of interest on student loans for people who went to woke colleges and universities and are now liberals and are the ones protesting free Palestine in the streets and support the current thing and will never have a real job in their life.
From the risks they take and the hard work they do, and have more money to reinvest into their next venture. A prosperous future and abundant, good-paying jobs depend on Canada's innovators, entrepreneurs, and researchers. And this is why we are supporting them.
Mr. Speaker, there are those who claim that the only good thing government can do when it comes to economic growth is to get out of the way.
We would like to see the liberals get out of the way. That would be great. Thank you.
That's why you sit there, guys. That's why you sit there.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce those people who just cheered, to the talented tradespeople and the brilliant engineers who last Thursday made the final weld. It's known as the Golden Weld on a great national project, the Trans Mountain Pipeline.
Did you? She's going to use the Trans Mountain Pipeline as a flex. It went $5 billion over budget. They were going to build it anyway. We didn't have to purchase it. And wow. She used that as a flex. Of course she would.
Mr. Speaker, it took an activist, determined Liberal government to get it built.
Folks, I want you, when we're done this live stream, I want you to call Chrystia's office. I want you to write letters to Chrystia. It's not going to do anything, but I want you to tell her how much of a fucking loser she is to use the Trans Mountain Pipeline and tradespeople in her speech today because she did nothing for them. She is making us broke, and she's using the Trans Mountain Pipeline as it's some sort of flex that they got it done. Yeah, way over budget and a waste of our money.
For the benefit of our younger generations and those who love them, we continue to stick to a responsible fiscal plan. As part of that plan, in the fall, we set 3 very specific fiscal guideposts: maintaining the 2023-24 deficit at or below $40.1 billion.
We're 1.2, almost $1.3 trillion in debt, folks.
Relative to the 2023 fall economic statement, and keeping it on a declining track thereafter, and maintaining a declining deficit to GDP ratio in 2024-25, and keeping deficits below 1% of GDP in 2026-27 and future years.
Yeah, you're not going to be in government there, Chrystia Freeland. You should be in jail by that time.
One of these objectives is being met. As is our fiscal anchor, a declining federal debt to GDP ratio over the medium term. In fact, Canada has the lowest deficit and net debt to GDP ratios in the G7, as recognized in our AAA credit rating.
Who gives out that AAA credit rating? Look it up.
And private sector forecasters are now predicting a soft landing for the Canadian economy, thus avoiding the recession and heartbreaking surge in unemployment that many had thought was inevitable. Canadians know how important it is to responsibly manage a budget in the face of rising costs. And they rightly expect their government to do the same.
That's why, going forward, federal public service organizations will be required to cover a portion of increased operating costs through their existing resources. Most of these savings will be achieved through natural attrition in the federal public service. As a result, over the next 4 years, we expect the ranks of the public service to decline by approximately 5,000 full-time equivalent positions.
That's bullshit. That's absolutely bullshit. You know when the job numbers go up, ladies and gentlemen, it's all artificial because they hire more public sector jobs in order to make it look like our economy is doing better. It's all bullshit.
Our tax system is fairer too. In Canada and around the world, the 21st century winner-takes-all economy is making those at the very top richer, while too many middle-class Canadians are struggling just to avoid falling behind. The job of our tax system is to lean against this structural inequality, to fund investments in the middle class.
You made it unequal.
Especially in young Canadians, by asking those who are benefiting from the winner-takes-all economy to pay a little bit more. Today,
I bet you none of them are going to pay more.
doesn't do that. Today, it is possible for a nurse or a carpenter to pay tax at a higher marginal rate than a multi-millionaire. That's not fair. That must change, and it will. Our government is raising the inclusion rate to 2/3 on annual capital gains above $250,000 for individuals. This new revenue will help make life cost less for millions of Canadians, particularly millennials and Gen Z. It will help fund our efforts to turbocharge the building of more homes. It will support investments in growth and productivity that will pay dividends for years to come. So, who will pay more? Well, Mr. Speaker, most Canadians have no capital gains in a typical year, so they won't pay more. The first $250,000 in capital gains every single year enjoyed by each individual Canadian will be taxed at the current rate. Individual Canadians enjoying this substantial annual gain won't pay a penny more. The lifetime capital gains exemption, an amount fully exempt from taxation, will be raised to $1.25 million. And this change will not, of course, apply to the sale of Canadians' principal residence, which is and will remain fully exempt from the tax on capital gains. Only 0.13% of Canadians with an average annual income of $1.4 million will pay more on their capital gains. For 99.87% of Canadians, personal income taxes on capital gains will not increase. Taxing capital gains is not an inherently partisan idea. It is an idea that everyone who cares about fairness should support. In fact, the idea of taxing capital gains in Canada was first broached by the government of Prime Minister John Diefenbaker and his Royal Commission on Taxation, chaired by Kenneth Carter. And Prime Minister Brian Mulroney raised the capital gains inclusion rate to 75%, higher than the rate we're establishing today. Yet, I know, there will be many voices raised in protest. No one likes paying more tax, even or perhaps particularly.
So this could have all been solved if they didn't frivolously spend for the past 8 years, right? If they didn't, irresponsibly spend, we would never be here. We are literally looking at a government who has spent more money than any other government in history.
Do you want to live in a country where you can tell the size of someone's paycheck by their smile? Do you want to live in a country where kids go to school hungry? Do you want to live in a country where a teenage girl gets pregnant because she doesn't have the money to buy birth control? Do you want to live in a country where the only young Canadians who can buy their own homes are those with parents who can help with the down payment? Do you want to live in a country where we make the investments we need in healthcare, in housing, in old age pensions, but we lack the political will to pay for them and choose instead to pass a ballooning debt on to our children?
You've already done that. You've already passed the ballooning debt onto our grandchildren, even our great-grandchildren.
Live lives of luxury, but must do so in gated communities behind ever higher fences, using private health care and private planes, because the public sphere is so degraded and the wrath of the vast majority of their less privileged compatriots burns so.
Remember, Justin Trudeau put his money into a trust fund to avoid taxation, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen Guilbeault, who you can see in the picture there, didn't pay his taxes. These liberals are crooks. That's what they are, crooks.
These same questions, because the stakes could not be higher. Democracy is not inevitable. It has succeeded and succeeds because it has delivered a good life for the middle class. When liberal democracy fails to deliver on that most fundamental social contract, we should not be surprised if the middle class loses faith in democracy itself. Tax policy is not only, or chiefly, the province of accountants or economists. It belongs to all of us, because it is how we decide what kind of a country we want to live in and what kind of a country we want to build. Today, our government is making our choice. C'est le chemin.
I just want you guys, Freeland, as she sits here, standing here with you right now, makes $289,000 per year.
There are some in this chamber, particularly across the aisle, who do not share our vision. They would cut programs that we have put in place to improve the lives of all Canadians. Nevertheless, our government, in their opinion, should just do a little and then less, and ultimately, in their view, do as little as possible or even nothing at all.
They ripped up early learning and childcare. And as housing minister, the current leader of the opposition only got a handful of homes constructed. It was our prime minister, not a conservative, who actually got a pipeline built.
There she goes again, folks. She's using the pipeline. She's using the pipeline again to get that blue-collar vote, but she's lost.
That is because our government understands that to do big things in Canada, sometimes the government needs to lead the charge, whether it is getting more homes built faster or finally creating a national system of early learning and childcare, or bending the curve on emissions. Let's be honest about what austerity banking state for Canadians. It means you're on your own. It means no one will give you a hand when you falter, and that you are choosing to turn your back on the friend or neighbor who has not been as lucky as you. That is not the Canadian way. In this country, we take care of each other. Mr. Speaker, to make a positive difference in people's lives, to get big things built, to get big things done, you need more than a slogan, more your country. To make a difference in people's lives, you need a plan. Canada needs action, not indifference. We are acting. The times call for building up our country, not sitting on the sidelines. We are building. Today, we say to our younger generation and to those who care about them, we are putting all the power of government to work for you. We will build more homes. We will make life cost less. We will grow our economy in a way that works for everyone. Together, we will unlock the door to the middle class for more Canadians and renew the promise of our great country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That was Chrystia Freeland, who give a budget to you, basically spending your money, ladies and gents. And at the end of the day, this budget will be the last budget. The last budget. Now we're going to hear from Pierre.
Budget, since the Prime Minister promised that the books would balance themselves, and everything he's spending on has. He promised that the deficits would make housing affordable, but it ended up doubling the cost of rent and mortgage payments and down payments to buy a house. He said that the cost of food would be more affordable, and now it costs 30% more, and 1 in 4 children aren't able to get nutritious meals. After 9 deficits, Mr. Speaker, the government is rich and the people are poor. And today, they're doing the same thing over again with $40 billion worth of inflationary deficit. That means $2,400 for each family in inflation and spending, and increase to the national debt instead of health. And that's why the Conservatives have a common sense plan to put an end to this pyro Prime Minister who's adding fuel to the flames.
Ninth deficit. The 9th deficit after the Prime Minister promised the budget would balance itself.
Yep, remember sunny ways, folks? Sunny ways.
Has become more expensive. He's doubled the rent, doubled mortgage payments, doubled the needed down payment for a home, forced 35 homeless encampments in Halifax alone. 1 in 4 kids cannot afford food. And now he's adding $40 billion of new debt and new spending. That's $2,400 of new inflation. That is why Conservatives will vote against this wasteful inflationary budget that is like a pyromaniac spraying gas on the inflationary fire that he lit. It is getting too hot and too expensive for Canadians, and that's why we need a carbon tax election to replace him with a common sense Conservative government.
Exactly. That's what we need, but he won't give it to us. That's called communism, folks. This is not a democracy. A coalition government is not a democracy.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have a point that I think it would be good to get the Leader of the Opposition to offer clarity on. We presented a clear choice to Canadians. We said to Canadians, we believe that we need the power of government to get things built for young Canadians, to get things built for the people of Alberta who needed the pipeline that we got built. And we presented a clear, fiscally responsible way to finance those essential investments, increasing the inclusion rate on capital gains.
9 deficits in a row. Does that sound responsible? I want to hear in the chat. Is that responsible?
Which poses as being on the side of working people to clarify its position today. Will the opposition join us in asking those at the very top to pay a little bit more to support Canadians? Or are they going to show their true colors and stand with the 0.1%? That's what Canadians want to know today, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the Minister just tabled a budget which is centralizing and it interferes with Quebec jurisdiction. New encroachments in education, municipal zoning, new strings attached to housing, conditions on childcare, new interference with property taxes. Does the minister realize that these intrusions that use the federal spending power, that this is just a demonstration of the fiscal imbalance which prevents the National Assembly of Quebec from freely acting within its own areas of jurisdiction? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'm so happy that my colleague has raised the issue of childcare, because I think that one issue clearly demonstrates the close cooperation between the federal government and Quebec. Childcare was an idea that began in Quebec under Quebec feminists, and congratulations to those women, and thank you for that. When we decided, we took the initiative to create a national system, a national childcare, early learning and childcare system. At the same time, we struck a deal with Quebec to support Quebec and to enable Quebec to go even further. And that is what we will continue to do. Yesterday, I spoke to the Quebec minister to discuss budget initiatives, and we have very close cooperation with the government of Quebec, and we will continue to work very closely with them. Thank you.
Member from Vancouver, Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, New Democrats know Canadians are facing a serious economic and climate crisis. Millions of people are struggling to make ends meet and are worried about their children's future. That's why we've used our seats in this House to successfully press for meaningful relief and progress in this budget in numerous areas, including to build more homes, preserve existing affordable housing, and protect renters, to deliver universal...
To be an NDP supporter or to be an NDP party member makes you a communist at this point. This man's leader of his party expensed more than any other leader of a party in this country, all while only taking care of 20 members of parliament in parliament. That is communism, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing more, nothing less.
To ensure the corporate sector pays its fair share so we can better fund the services Canadians need. Can the minister explain why she declined to raise corporate tax rates in Canada, despite them being among the lowest in the OECD, despite the U.S. doing so, and in the face of record prices and profits? Was the lobbying that effective?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I want to start by congratulating the member for Vancouver Kingsway on his new role as finance critic. And I'm going to share with this House that he and I both grew up in Edmonton and first met when I was a teenager because he was working on my mother's election campaign. Life is funny that way. I therefore agree with the member from Vancouver Kingsway on so many things and have for so many years. But I have to say on this specific issue, we're going to have to agree to differ. We believe in a fiscally responsible policy, and we believe that when we make investments, we need to finance them. We also believe in fairness.
Got to finance them off of the backs of hardworking Canadians. There's people that literally are going to be eating Kraft dinner tonight and not having meat in their diet because of this government's frivolous spending. It is ridiculous and it has to end.
To ensure that Canada continues to be internationally
And I'm not
competitive,
prejudiced Kraft dinner.
to
I
ensure
fucking
that
love
Canada
Kraft dinner, okay?
continues to be an attractive investment destination for foreign investors and for Canadian investors. It was with that in mind that we were very thoughtful about the revenue-raising methods that we chose.
Yeah.
We have time for a very brief question from the member from Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Conservatives told this Liberal NDP Prime Minister to stop his spending, his deficits, inflation, and his tax hikes. But this Prime Minister blew right through that stop sign, dumping $40 billion of fuel on the inflationary fire that he started. This photo op budget is going to do nothing for average Canadians who can't afford a home and groceries today. Will the Finance Minister tell us how much each Canadian household is on the hook for the $54 billion of just interest charges?
They asked her over and over again. She can't say anything. She doesn't have an answer to this. This shows you, ladies and gentlemen, right here.
An equally brief answer from the Minister of Finance and Deputy Prime Minister.
Let me just share then with the member opposite the good news that we got today, which is that inflation for March was 2.9%. For 3 months in a row, inflation in Canada has been within the Bank of Canada's target range.
Is that the question? Did he? Am I missing something here? Did he ask that question? Did he ask what the percentage of inflation was? Am I missing something?
Resuming the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Pour une neuvième fois.
For the 9th time, the Prime Minister has promised that if he spends more and taxes more, Canadians would be better off. For the 9th time, we see that the quality of living, especially for the famous middle class, has actually gone down with a doubling of the cost of housing. And after big government programs for housing were started, 1 in 4 children aren't getting enough food to eat, according to the government itself. After the creation of programs for affordable food. And now he's talking about a pipeline paid for by government as if that was the biggest accomplishment you could ever have in a society. And if the government were not to have intervened, this never would have happened. This project is 500% over cost.
Yep. That's your money, folks. Your money.
To pay for that has gone to Texas, another example of massive waste. And that is why Conservatives, with their common sense plan, will be voting against this budget and will be voting in favor of a carbon tax election, which will allow Canadians to choose a party that will cut taxes, build housing, fix budgets, and stop crime. That's our common sense.
Okay. And in a 9th consecutive deficit, with the budget still not balancing itself. And everything on which the Prime Minister spends gets worse and more costly. He has spent and Canadians are broke. The country is broken. We have a doubling of housing costs. We have 8,000 people joining a Facebook group to study how they can get a meal out of a garbage can after food prices have gone up faster than at any time in a generation because of the carbon tax he's imposing on our food, a carbon tax that with the help of the NDP, he plans to quadruple to 61 cents a liter. And today, did he learn anything from these catastrophic failures? No. He doubles down on the same failure with $40 billion of new deficits, $40 billion of new spending. That's to say $2,400 for every family in new debt and new inflationary spending. And now, for the first time in a generation, we're spending more on debt interest than on that bank and bondholders rather than doctors and nurses. Right. And the great example of how wonderful government can be, given after a tremendous theatrical pause, was the government's purchase of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. What would have happened if the government had just gotten out of the way? Asked the finance minister. The answer is the thing would have got built with private money rather than $30 billion of taxpayer bailouts.
That's right.
In fact, a project the Prime Minister said would cost $5 billion is up to $30 billion. Wow. Mr. Speaker, that is 500% over budget. It is $2,000 in costs for every single Canadian family for a project the private sector was going to be building on its own, and the company that was going to build it bought out, taking the money to Texas, where they're building Texan pipelines with Canadian dollars. All of our exes are in Texas, Mr. Speaker. And then, to close it off, we got some of the most hair-raising ideological fervor from the minister, who says that what Canadians really need is a stronger government. Well, they have created a stronger government in order to make for weaker and more suffering people. This is not a government that gives people everything they want. It's a government that takes everything they have. But the good news, Mr. Speaker, is we want big Canadian citizens with a smaller and more efficient government, where the state is servant and not master, where our priorities are clear: to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. And as soon as the NDP takes away its support from this Prime Minister, we will have a carbon tax election where
you know what's amazing when it comes down to Liberals? Did you guys hear that in the background? Cut, 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 cut. That was the rebuttal from the Liberal Party, right? Somebody heckling in the back. Yeah, you got to cut. When you overspend in your household or just say you're in debt and you have to pay off that debt, what do you have to do in your own household? And it's just funny that Liberals, they think this way. Like, they just don't understand they can't even run a fucking house. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me.
By the member for Forest Long that the debate now be adjourned.
Okay. Mr. Polyev, seconded by Mr. Halland, moves that the debate now be adjourned. Mr. Polyev at pied.
Mr. Poilievre, seconded by Mr. Halland, moves that the debate.
So you see the House there, right? The Liberals didn't even stick around.
Adjourned until tomorrow at 2 p.m. pursuant to Standing Order 24-1.
Pursuant to Standing Order 83-2, the motion is deemed adopted and the House stands adjourned until tomorrow at 2 p.m. pursuant to Standing Order 24-1.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is not going to do anything for the Liberals at all. What I want to do is I want to share this with you. from our friends over at 338canada.com. I want to show you what it looks like. The popular vote projection right now. These numbers aren't going to change, ladies and gentlemen. They're actually going to change in favor of the Conservative Party. So right now you have the Conservatives at 42%, Liberals trailing way behind at 25%. And you got the NDP in at 18. Now, let's go down to the 338 Canada odds of winning the most seats. They have 99% right now is the Conservative Party will win the most seats. And chances of an outcome, a 99% chance that the Conservative Party of Canada will have a majority government. Now, seat projections of potential coalitions, we don't even have to worry about that, right? So right now, they're only looking at the Liberal and NDP will have 92 seats combined between the two, where the Conservative Party of Canada will have 206 seats if the election were held today, is what the projections are. So, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have to worry about what's going on in the future after the next election. What we do have to worry about is Justin Trudeau has a year and a half. He's got a year and a half to literally destroy the country. And he's going to do that. He's going to do everything he can to destroy Canada in a year and a half because he knows Pierre will have to put it back together. My prediction is simple. The House of Commons will be more than 3/4 of Conservatives. That's going to look crazy. It's going to be crazy to see that many Conservatives in the House of Commons. The NDP party, Jagmeet Singh, has committed career suicide. He is done. He is over after the next election because Jagmeet Singh, the NDP party, will be lucky to even be a party after the next election, to be recognized as a party in the House of Commons. The Liberal Party is going to be reduced as well. The Bloc's going to increase. That's where your seat's going to go. And I am not a proponent of the PPC party in Canada, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not this guy that flies a purple flag or any of that other stuff. But I think we might see between 1 and 5 PPC members of Parliament in the House of Commons after next election. That's where I think those changes are going to go that I talked about out of the NDP and out of the Liberals. Mostly it'll be out of the Conservatives, and then people will be moving. You guys get you get the gist, right? So that's our budget. What disgusted me in the budget was Chrystia Freeland going at blue collar workers and basically saying that, you know, they helped the blue collar worker out. They bought a pipeline with your money. With your money, they bought a pipeline. And at the end of the day, that's taxpayer money that never had to be spent because the Trans Mountain Pipeline was going to get built privately regardless. It was going to be built privately regardless, ladies and gentlemen. So we just got to think about this. They are going to spend a year and a half destroying this country. Conservatives are going to have a lot to do. And when people come to me and say, You're running away from Canada, I just give you this. I'm running away from Canada? No, I'm running away from this frivolous spending. I'm running away. This is going to take 50 years. 50 years to rebuild this country. We are a population of 41 million people, and many of them on social programs. That means 41 million people are in charge of almost $1.3 trillion of debt. Think about that. It's going to take forever. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 100% appreciative of all of your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching Budget 2023 with me, 2024 with me, sorry. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Please go check out BertaProudDad.com to support the channel. Have a wonderful evening.